Hey guys, welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. Today we're going to talk about something that could impact the rest of the 2020 season. Definitely an unforgettable season. That's the trade deadline coming up. Some big name players could be on the move, and we're going to talk about how it might affect your fantasy teams. So let's start with, first of all, teams that probably are going to hold tight and are not going to trade these players. So Zach Ertz has been one of the top names. In fact, there were two teams, specifically the Packers and the Ravens. They actually put out feelers to make a move to get Ertz. And then, of course, he went on IR. So now he cannot be traded. So Zach Ertz will not go anywhere else. Unfortunately, that might have been a game changer, but Ertz is staying in Philly, at least for the rest of the season. Also, there was some noise about maybe the Falcons just selling off and blowing it up and starting from scratch. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Word is that Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are totally safe. I don't think they really want to get traded, but they're not going anywhere. So don't worry about that. Evan Ingram has been definitely rumored to be on the block, especially a lot of Giants fans probably weren't too sad about that after he had dropped that pass last week. But you know what? Looks like Edelman wants to hold tight. They're not going to get an offer that's going to make them move. So it seems as if Ingram is also off the block. And then going to the other New York team, Sam Darnold, wouldn't make sense if they traded him, but it looks like the Jets are doing Jets things, keeping their coach, keeping their quarterback, and just continuing to lose. So don't worry about Darnold going into a different team just yet. Now, here's some guys that could be on the move. Let's start with the big names first. Juju Smith-Schuster. I know it seems crazy, but he absolutely could get moved. He is going to be a free agent after this year. It doesn't seem like he is the focal point of that passing game anymore. Do you think what are the odds that you would give on him actually getting moved before the deadline, the team making a move? And then where do you think it would make sense for him to even wind up?
I don't think he's going to get moved. Steelers are undefeated. They have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. Big Ben isn't getting any younger. You can't take away one of his weapons. Even if Juju hasn't been the weapon we're used to seeing him as, I have a hard time believing that the Steelers are going to take away one of his weapons at this point. They're not in a rebuild mode. They're trying to win right now this year. So I'd be really surprised if they move Juju. I know he's going to be a free agent and all that, but I just have a hard time believing that they're going to trade Juju like for future draft picks or something like that, which is probably what they're going to get. They're not going to get another receiver for Juju, obviously. So I don't think Juju's going to move, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. If they were a 500 team right now, they were struggling and, that might be different, but exactly. I don't think they're going to make any moves at this point because why would you? Another heavy rumor, which maybe won't happen, but there's been some noise that Adam Thielen might get moved. Makes sense because the Vikings are 1-5. They're really struggling. Thielen's a little bit older. If they're going to rebuild, why not move him now while he's being really productive? And there was a strong rumor that the Browns would be interested, which of course makes sense because Odell Beckham now out for the season. The Browns actually look like contenders, at least on paper. Do you think this could happen, Thielen to the Browns, or maybe somewhere else?
Yeah, now see, this one makes a lot of sense to me because the Browns just lost Odell Beckham Jr. They need a wide receiver. They're also in position to make a run, right? To make a playoff run, perhaps a deep run, maybe even a Super Bowl run. And this could be the piece they need. And like you said, the Vikings, they're not contending anytime soon. That's for sure. They already have a young, potentially stud wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. So I think this makes sense for both sides. I would not at all be surprised to see Adam Thielen moved at the trade deadline, and the Browns make a ton of sense.
And then do you think going to the Browns do anything for his fantasy value?
Yeah, if you have Adam Thielen in fantasy and he gets moved to the Browns, you can't feel great about it, at least not right away. First of all, you're going to have that transition from going into a new offense. Like you said, I mean, the Vikings are a run-heavy offense. So that's okay. But, I mean, Mayfield has not looked good, especially, throwing the ball down the field. He has not looked good at all with Odell. He had some moments last week. So I would not take this as an upgrade for Adam Thielen. I never want a guy who's, putting up wide receiver 1 numbers or running back 1 numbers to change situations. Everything's good. Keep him where he's at. I would not like it if Adam Thielen got traded to the Browns from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Not sure it's going to happen, but I think probably the best chance for, high target share is exactly where he's at. So, and then let's go to the Bengals, where pretty much every receiver at some point, I guess, is asking for a trade. Okay, maybe not all of them, but okay. John Ross has officially asked for a trade. A couple of weeks ago, Auden Tate asked for a trade, and then AJ Green, maybe officially, unofficially asked for a trade on the sideline. I don't know. So what gives? First of all, who goes? Who stays? Who cares? I mean, if AJ Green's got to be the one that you think you're worried about from the fantasy standpoint, do you think that either one of those other guys has any fantasy relevance? Maybe if they go to a team that needs a receiver, like the Patriots or the Packers.
I mean, yeah, if one of them goes to the Packers, maybe. If they can take that number 2 job, but are we sure that John Ross or Auden Tate can take the number 2 job? I mean, Auden Tate looked amazing in camp, and he was like the team's MVP, and then he doesn't even get playing time. So who knows what we have there? And John Ross, we know, is a burner, but can he do much more than that for a team? So not too excited. I mean, obviously, if they go to Green Bay, you got to perk your ears up a little bit, of course. Now, AJ Green is definitely the big one because, again, kind of like Adam Thielen, this makes a lot of sense for the Bengals. This is a team. They've got a bright future. They got Joe Burrow. They've got young talent like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They've got Mixon. So, I mean, this is a team that has a lot of to look forward to. But AJ Green's getting up there. He hasn't looked like AJ Green in his prime, and he's been okay. I think if AJ Green went to a team like Green Bay, that would skyrocket his value because you got to think he's instantly going to become the team's wide receiver 2 alongside Devontae Adams. So I think that would be huge for AJ Green's fantasy value. And it does make sense for the Packers, again, who look good, look like they could be making a run. You don't know how many more years they got with Aaron Rodgers, to play at the level he's playing at. So I think that makes a lot of sense as well. And unlike Adam Thielen going to the Browns, I think if AJ Green went to the Packers, his value would go up.
It got to be because right now he's kind of third, unofficially third, as far as the Bengals. I know he maybe has more targets than T. Higgins, but I don't see that happening the rest of the season, especially if he's on the trading block, which who knows. But yeah, if he moves, it's got to be a jump up. Another team that could be selling off, maybe all of its receivers, who knows, maybe none. The Texans, obviously things aren't going the way they planned. A lot of rumors about Will Fuller, who's been their best receiver, but he might be on the move because they've got to rebuild, right? They really have no choice at this point. They need draft picks because they've traded them all away. So maybe Fuller, and there's people connecting the dots between Green Bay and Fuller. Maybe Kenny Stills. That's not quite as exciting from a fantasy standpoint. There's even been talk about Brandon Cooks, which to me doesn't make sense. They just got him. Why are they going to trade him? But who knows what's going to happen in Houston? What do you make of this whole situation?
Yeah, this was really surprising to me because in the offseason, they traded away one of, if not the best wide receiver in football, and we've seen the impact it's had on the offense. Why would you give away the next best receiver you have on the team? It's not like Will Fuller is up there in his 30s like AJ Green and Adam Thielen. He's still young. He could still play many years with Deshaun Watson. So this makes no sense. But then again, it's the Texans, and this is what they do. So you got to take it serious that this could happen. Again, just like AJ Green. If he goes to the Packers, value is through the roof. I mean, could you imagine Devontae Adams on one side and Will Fuller on the other with Aaron Rodgers throwing to him? I mean, Aaron Rodgers might put up, 5 touchdowns every single week and only throw 10 passes, right? So definitely if he goes to Green Bay, huge value boost. I think best case scenario, though, really is he just stays put in Houston because we've seen in games where he's healthy with Deshaun Watson, he has monster upside. So I'd like it if he just stayed there from a fantasy perspective.
It would make total sense if Bill O'Brien was still there because that's his MO, right? To do the most illogical thing possible. But they don't actually have a real GM right now, so who knows what's going to happen? Maybe nothing. But I would say, yeah, if any of these guys goes to the Packers, it's got to be a boost. But other than that, I kind of would think I'd prefer them staying in Houston because you're tied to Deshaun Watson, right? One of the best quarterbacks out there. So it might be better even for, a guy like Fuller just to stay put. A little less exciting here at receiver, Golden Tate. I know the Giants are motivated to move him. Not sure how motivated other teams are to get him, but this could definitely be a jump in value if he gets out of the Giants offense and goes to one of those teams we already talked about. Maybe the Browns are interested because, they don't have to give up as much to get somebody like him as a guy like Thielen.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one I could certainly see the Giants wanting to move Golden Tate. what is he, like 32 years old now? Not part of the future for the Giants. I don't know. I mean, is Golden, does he even still have anything left? He was the guy I liked coming into this year as potential sleeper. Hasn't done anything. Even when Shepard's been out, still hasn't really done anything. What does he even have left? I mean, Packers, Browns. I mean, Packers always you're going to get a little excited about because of Aaron Rodgers. Browns, I mean, they already have Jarvis Landry. How many slot receivers do the Browns really need? Plus, they throw to like the running backs out of the backfield all the time. They throw to the tight ends a lot. Baker Mayfield targets the tight ends a ton. So not really excited if he goes to the Browns. Packers, yeah, okay, it's a boost because it's Aaron Rodgers and it's Packers, but what does Golden Tate really have left at this point? I'm not going to be too excited wherever or whatever happens to Golden Tate.
Yeah, I have to agree because even if the situation technically is better, it really can't get too much worse for a receiver than the Giants this year. It doesn't necessarily boost his value because how many targets is he going to get? Now, a tight end we know wants to get traded. He's asked for it twice. Let's see if Cleveland complies, and that's David Nujoku. This is an interesting name because even though we're talking about a tight end here, a tight end, maybe we need somebody who gets a major boost. And if he gets traded, I would say maybe top 10 tight end potential. But do you see him getting moved to a desirable location?
I could definitely see him being moved. Doesn't Njoku to the Bengals for AJ Green make a lot of sense? Right? The Browns get a receiver to potentially replace Odell. They don't need Njoku. The Bengals need a tight end, right? They're down to Drew Sample, my boy, who hasn't been really getting it done. Makes a lot of sense. Certainly Arizona makes sense. They don't really have a tight end. Buffalo needs a tight end. But anywhere he goes, it's got to be a boost because in Cleveland, he's buried, right? I mean, we even saw it last week when Austin Hooper was out. Harrison Bryant was the primary tight end, and Njoku, just got kind of like the scraps. He did catch that touchdown, but he wasn't really involved outside of that. So he's buried in Cleveland. So anywhere he goes, you got to think is going to be an upgrade for Njoku.
All right. And then a running back here. Probably not a lot of running backs on the move. Maybe one who could get a value boost because anywhere would be better than Detroit. Kerryon Johnson, again, has just been in the doghouse since day one, it seems. Not getting any touches. They signed Adrian Peterson to take his place as the backup. So do you think that he gets moved? And if so, are we interested in Kerryon Johnson?
I mean, I could definitely see him being moved. It doesn't seem like the Lions are invested in Kerryon Johnson at this point. So I could definitely see them moving on from him. Will I be interested in him? I mean, it really depends where he goes, right? I know some of the possible destinations. Cardinals make some sense. They just lost Kenyon Drake. I know Chase Edmonds has looked great, but you want some depth, you can go out and get Kerryon Johnson. Would I be excited about him? I mean, not really. Maybe a little better, but not much because I do think Chase Edmonds is really good, and I think Chase Edmonds is going to get the bulk of the work there. Yeah, I could see him being moved. As far as am I going to be excited about where he goes? Probably not.
Anywhere he goes, it'll be part of a committee at best, second, third running back, maybe. So, maybe he's gotten a raw deal in Detroit, but I don't think he's going to get a much better deal going forward. He's definitely not going to be a lead back anywhere unless he happens to get lucky, to be a backup and then somebody gets injured. But yeah, then you're just waiting for too many dominoes to fall. So, and let's end with your boy in Washington. It's time for Dwayne Haskins to find a new home. I mean, there's no point delaying the inevitable, right? So does he get dealt mid-season? And then if so, any interest, maybe not in redraft, but at least in dynasty, do you think he'd get a boost, getting a chance? I think Indianapolis makes all the sense in the world. Got Phillip Rivers, who's just a placeholder for whoever the future quarterback is. Maybe a team that needs a young backup like Pittsburgh. I mean, what do you see happening with Haskins?
I do think he'll get traded. It might not be by the trade deadline, but if not at the trade deadline, it'll be in the offseason. He'll get traded because it doesn't make sense at this point. You might as well get something for him while he still has some perceived value. He was a first-round draft pick as a quarterback. You could probably get a second or third rounder for him, and he's never going to play for the football team, that's for sure. Did you put this in here just to rile me up, to get me off on a rant? Because what I really want to say is Dwayne Haskins isn't any good, and it doesn't really matter where he goes. I just don't think he's an NFL caliber quarterback, but I won't go off on that tangent. But I do think he will get traded either at the trade deadline, probably not as likely more than likely in the offseason. And no, it doesn't matter where he goes.
Yeah, I know you kind of would prefer if your team had drafted a certain other quarterback, maybe Tua, somebody like that. But we're always surprised by some of these moves, right? So we'll see. You got less than a week before it happens. Needless to say, November 3rd is going to be an interesting day all around for multiple reasons. So we'll see what happens from now until then. And it's Halloween weekend too. What could be better for 2020? It's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be an interesting day and an interesting rest of the year. So we'll see what comes of this. And of course, once these moves get made, we'll have instant reaction to all of it next week. So leave us some comments. You got some trades you think make sense that we didn't talk about. You like some of the things we talked about. Give us a comment here. Follow us at Endgame Fantasy on Twitter. And of course, hit that subscribe button. We do things like this each and every week, along with Waiver Wire, Start Sit, Endgame Live on kickoff, before kickoff every Sunday. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.